This is a, this is about different consoles having different versions of games released. I'm sure you've all experienced some very weird games in the past. And this is a big reason for it. I do want to see that AI video. I might. This is Harry. I might come back for like a react stream. I don't know, maybe on the weekend. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what I want to do. I do want to do another Cosmic stream as well, so maybe that'll happen. Yeah, like how console and handheld games can be vastly different. Exactly. I played the So let me actually show an example from my own life. So there is a game called the Tasmanian Tiger 3, Night of the Quinken. Now, Night of the Quinken on console and Night of the Quinken on GBA are not even remotely the same game. PS2, So let me just show you. So this is, let me just show some random gameplay here. So this is the PS2 version. It looks like a Tasmanian Tiger game, right? All normal stuff. Nothing out of the ordinary. The combat's like more like bigger than it was in the older games, but nothing that crazy. This is the GBA version. And this is the one that I had. I had a friend that had the PS2 version. This is the one that I had at my house. They're not even remotely the same games. This is like a 2D side-scroller platformer. The PS2 one is like a 3D action game that has some platforming elements. It's not a bad game, don't get me wrong. It's just not good. It's not a bad game, it's just not good. Anyway, are you playing the wrong version of your favorite game?
This is Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets.
Harry Potter.
And this is the same game, but for PS2. Notice any differences besides the graphics? Well, on PS2, the game has radically different level design. I didn't even mention the PC version, but that too is totally...
Well, people talk about Philosopher's Stone a lot as well. Like is it the PC version of Philosopher's Stone that is like, is that the one with the Hagrid? Or is that PS1 Hagrid? No, it's PS1 Hagrid. Yeah, it's PS1 Hagrid. Yeah. We love PS1 Hagrid. We love PS1 Hagrid.
Different. Let's look at another example quickly. This is SpongeBob, Battle for Bikini Bottom.
This is a very good game.
It's a very well-known game, and on PlayStation 2, it was one of the most popular platformers. It was also on other consoles like the GameCube and Xbox, where it was also really well received. But back in 2003, this was what PC users got instead. I would say it's a bit different from the console version.
Imagine that. Like, imagine getting such a big difference on the PC nowadays. Like, PC was treated so weirdly back then. Like, because legitimately, consoles were actually faster in many cases. Especially for the kind of PCs that normal people had.
And there must have been a few surprised gamers, especially since the box cover was exactly the same. I don't know why THQ decided to do this, but clearly it's just a collection of minigames. I'm surprised nobody sued the company for deceptive marketing.
Yeah?
But back in those days, PC users often drew the short end of the stick. Either way, those are primary examples that sort of segue into the topic of this video, which is to cover games that are radically different on separate platforms. I'm going to focus mostly on 6th and...
That was on the Dreamcast? I didn't even know there was a Dreamcast version of this.
and 7th gen games. So let's get started with this list.
Ghost Recon Advanced Warfare 2. I've never played a Ghost Recon game.
The Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter series revolutionized tactical shooters on console. The second one was especially good and really raised expectations for future releases. For a while, it was simply the best action
Nobody knew
game
about the
on
Dreamcast
PS3,
view back then.
because early in its life cycle, the console lacked any compelling exclusives. On PC, the story was more or less the same. However, levels were completely different, and environment
This looks so much better on PC. This was the era when we started seeing actual good-looking PC games.
details were slightly downgraded as well. I'm partial to the first-person view, however, and commanding troops with the mouse is definitely easier than with a controller.
Sure, yeah. This is a big one. Yeah, I've seen this one before.
Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2 was really good on all platforms. There's nothing to complain about. However, if you bought it for PS2, you got the definitive version. It was given more resources and was built with EA's newest proprietary engine. This would explain why it looks so advanced when compared to the others. Still,
What year was Hot Pursuit 2? Hot Pursuit 2 was 2000. Yeah, for context, this was a 2002 racing game.
Explain why it looks so advanced when compared to the others. Still, you can play it on PC via emulation, so everything's fine.
Now that you're out and about, why don't you swing around for a while?
Spider-Man 2.
Spider-Man 2 was one of the most critically acclaimed licensed games on consoles.
Yeah, people still
had
talk about
great-
Spider-Man 2 today.
Web-slinging mechanics, and I thought the overall design was well done. Perhaps the open world was its best feature, providing the player
Really
with
impressive
lots
for
of
them.
side quests and mini-games. But PC gamers missed out on the fun, having to settle for a very basic beat-em-up instead. And basic is the
Wait, you just get stuck on the sign?
word, because everything looks dull and devoid of detail. Web slinging was easily the worst because it involved clicking on the screen with the left mouse button. It was very disappointing.
Forgotten Sand. I've not played Forgotten Sand. I've only played Sands of Time. Remember when Ubisoft made good games?
The Forgotten Sands plays off just before the events of Warrior Within. It's actually
What a fun
quite
time that
good,
was. That was nice.
introducing new combat mechanics and parkour moves. Graphically, it's a stunning game, especially for 2010. There were 3 main versions developed by 3 different studios. The first is the one most people know, and that's the one for PC and 7th gen consoles. On Wii, the game had a similar art style to the older games on PS2 and GameCube. It kind of followed the story that was on 7th gen consoles,
Right.
but more or less did its own thing. This translated
What?
to the levels as well, which were very different, and offered a whole new setting. Honestly, I had the most fun with this version.
Okay.
Then there's the PSP,
Fair enough.
which got a release of its own.
We
was
love
made by-
handheld games getting completely fucking cucked.
The same studio that developed the Wii version. And you can tell, even though it is a 2D platformer, it shares a lot of the same art style and characters. Surprise, there was a 4th version for the Nintendo DS handheld. I didn't want to mention it, but I suppose I have to. This one wasn't as much fun for me. Maybe it's the
doesn't
cartoony
even-
art style, but I couldn't get into it.
Go. Wait, is this another God of War clone? It's like...
Ghost Rider is a licensed game based on the movie from 2007.
Okay.
It more or less adheres to the narrative, although I don't remember any of the film scenes taking place in hell. I suppose it doesn't matter. Anyway, both the PS2 and PSP versions are action beat-em-ups, but there is one big difference.
Right.
On PSP, the levels are compartmentalized into small arenas, where you have to defeat all enemies before moving on to the next arena. It takes away a bit of the fun because I would rather have proper levels, as it is on PS2. I should mention, There is a Game Boy Advance version. It looks like crap, but it's there in case you're interested.
Lambert, you see that? There is no
Splinter Cell Double Agent.
There's got to be a way through the roof via the ventilation systems. John, I have a special mission for you. Roger that.
This is another game that another
Back
series
when
I've
Ubisoft
wanted to
still
play for a
cared
long
about
time.
Splinter Cell, it made 2 versions of Double Agent, one for 6th gen and one for 7th gen. And before you think that it was gimped on PS2 or Xbox, it wasn't. Sure, the level design was completely different, but no less competent than on PC or 360. What struck me about the 6th gen versions were the levels, which were absolutely huge. For example,
Wow.
it took me twice as long to escape from prison, but it wasn't laborious at all. I loved every second, so it is worth playing.
Ooh, Force Unleashed. I remember this being like a real, like people really liking this game when it came out.
The Force Unleashed is surely among the best of games based on Star Wars. However, the most popular
To be fair, that's a short list of games you would even consider being good.
versions weren't necessarily the definitive way to play. Sure, the overall design was vastly different on Wii, PS2 and PSP, but you also got more levels and more content. And quite frankly, I think it looks really good on PSP, especially when upscaled through emulation. Another thing I noticed, on PC and 7th gen consoles, you don't have Force Lightning and Force Repel available at the start. These powers have to be
Why?
unlocked as you progress through the story, but on PSP, you have them immediately. If you consider that PSP includes all of the Wii and PS2's content, it's the ultimate way to play the Force Unleashed.
I appreciate what you're trying to do, but not
Driver
now, all right?
San
Okay, partner, do
Francisco.
your lonesome gun route.
This is such a wasted IP. Like how, like this game didn't sell very well. But I'm gonna drop an 8-minute video about Lego Star Wars. Like this game didn't sell very well when it came out, but since then, like this has got like a cult following.
But once that cell door slams behind Jericho, we are gonna live a little.
Driver San Francisco was released in 2011 for all major platforms, but the Wii version was undeniably mediocre at best. It had a completely new story. The city streets looked
What?
different, and even the
Why would you make a new story for it? That's so weird.
gameplay mechanics were scrapped to emphasize motion controls. And boy,
Course.
were the
Of course.
controls bad, even for Wii. I would suggest that you stick to the PC or other console editions.
Here we go!
Sonic Unleashed. What is that text they're using? Like font?
Most Sonic fans are aware of this, but in case you don't know, Sonic Unleashed is way better on 7th gen consoles, and
Right.
especially Xbox 360. That doesn't mean it's bad on older consoles, but there were definite cutbacks to the levels and overworld. Character interactions were downgraded
What
as well,
is that
often
thing?
lacking voice acting. If your PC is strong enough to emulate the 360 version on Xenia, that would be the best way to go, I think.
Now, what is this going to be? Is this going to be another God of War clone? It's got that
While
vibe
Science
to
of
it,
Evil
doesn't
isn't a
it?
great Hellboy game, it's still interesting to see how different the PSP version was from the other versions.
I knew I was
I'm just
fucking
going
right.
to jump straight into
I knew
comparisons
I'd be
because
right.
it explains things the best. You can see that Hellboy looks far more colorful on PSP, but the graphics are simplified as well. But sometimes the character models look better, depending on the situation, like here in the crypt.
I guess it's just an art style
Overall,
thing.
I lean slightly towards the 7th gen consoles, but only because the levels are longer. That's it for this video. If you found it useful, please remember to give a like. It really helps with the algorithm. Thanks for watching and have a nice day.
Video games are weird sometimes. Video games are weird sometimes. Check out that video. I haven't seen this guy's channel before. I might have to check out other ones he's done as well at some point.